In today's show, a low point of an already difficult season. Yikes. Welcome to Locked On Blazers. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Trailblazers, your daily Portland Trailblazers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What up, world? It's your past first point guard and Trailblazers reporter, Mike Richmond. Listen to another episode of Locked On Blazers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, available wherever you get podcasts and also on YouTube. Thanks for making the show your first listen each and every weekday, coming at you Monday through Friday. So make it a part of your daily routine. Make it your first listen as Locked On Blazers, your team every day. Oh, geez. Okay, here's the thing about doing this podcast every day. Is that sometimes you say like, I wonder what I'm going to talk about. I wonder what it's like, the team's not very good. We're on the stretch run of the season. I know what we got to talk about today. The Blazers played perhaps their worst game of the season. I'm pretty sure Anthony Simons just played the worst game I've ever seen him play in his career. This was a new low point in an already difficult season. Let's talk about that. We'll recap a couple games from the weekend. Blazers lost to the Nuggets on Friday and then the Hornets on Sunday. The Hornets game was an absolute debacle with a capital D. I don't even know if they make D's big enough to describe what a big debacle this was. They scored 80 points in an NBA game in the year 2024. Woof. They gave up 93 points in a game and they got their butts kicked. They were never competitive, basically. So we'll talk about what this game means. We'll recap both of those games, and then I want to answer a question a friend of mine posed to me over the weekend. What would tanking look like? That's what we'll do to close the show. We usually do fastest recap in the West, but I'm going to spare y'all from the granular recap until the second segment. We'll do that because it's what we do on the show. It's what we do, baby. So we'll do our fastest recap in the West for both Nuggets and Hornets games in the second segment. But let's just start here because I think we got to start somewhere, and this is the place to do it. The Blazers lost a game on Sunday evening, 93-80. They were horrific. Scored 18 points in the first quarter at home. The Hornets are 15-42. They've won 5 in a row. They've been playing a lot better lately. Since they made the trade to kind of dump some of their vets, they've kind of sorted some stuff out, and they're getting, Brandon Miller's coming around, and Bridges is playing better, and Miach is fits what they want to do, and Cody Martin's back and he helps. And they're playing better. They're playing undeniably playing better. But to have this game against this team. This is, I think in general, one of the things I pride myself in this show is that I try not to sort of wildly overreact. When I feel strongly about something, obviously, you hear it here, right? I don't hide it in the microphone. I don't fake the funk. But I try not to just freak out for the sake of freaking out. I think it's really boring radio, and two is just it's not who I am. It's not the kind of person that I am, and not the kind of content creator, as much as I don't like that word. It's not the type of content creator I am. But watching this game, and watch this performance in this game against that team, the Charlotte Hornets, this is the type of red flag performance that makes me think, have the Blazers accomplished anything this year? That's a big question. And perhaps not a fair one to ask after this absolute stinker in which Malcolm Brogdon didn't play because he's out for an extended period of time, and Scoot Anderson didn't play because he's missed a couple games now with a groin injury coming out of the All-Star break. And obviously the Blazers have been hit by other injuries that have losing Robert Williams at the beginning of the season and Shaedon Sharpe, who's played less than half the games this year. Like, obviously the injuries have been a thing, right? But to see how bad Anthony Simons looked, and see how bad Jeremy Grant looked, I thought DeAndre Ayton was good. It's a lot of available rebounds. I'll put it like that. A lot of available rebounds. He had finished with 19 boards, but DA, the only bright spot, even close to something that looked like a bright spot. Matisse Thybulle's totally lost his offensive ability. Jabari Walker has looked worse recently than he did to start the season. This year was supposed to be about building to what's next. They were supposed to be bad. I'm not super worried about 15-41. This loss in some ways was a good loss, right? Because they're going to find themselves with the fourth worst record in the NBA. They're going to climb past Charlotte and deeper towards the bottom of the standings, which at this point in the season is just straight up a good thing. It's maybe not a fun thing to root for, but this is just a positive direction from the losses, right? And this was a particularly important loss because losing to the Hornets matters, because you want to give them a win while you get a loss. But this game, and the way the offense looks, and the way that the effort looked, the Blazers in the fourth quarter, two moments stand out to me. One, they get a rebound, kick out to Jeremy Grant, and he is going to push in transition the other way. There is no one around him who wears a Charlotte Hornets jersey. As he turns around, he lightly bumps into Anthony Simons, who is also kind of just running in no man's land where Jeremy was trying to fill the lane. Jeremy Grant bounces the ball off Anthony Simons' foot as they lightly collide, and the ball goes out of bounds back to the Hornets. It was that kind of night. No defenders in sight. No one's stopping you. The Blazers' two best players collide into each other and the ball, zaps out of bounds. Yes, that's what kind of night it was. And then, just over 7 minutes left, Anthony Simons throws just a horrifically bad pass. The worst basketball game I've ever seen him play. He's awful. Bad at everything. He did not have a redeeming moment in the game. Bad at everything. Turns the ball over, terrible pass, terrible decision, terrible pass, and the Hornets get a run out, and nobody runs back at all, to the point where Brandon Miller stops, looks back, waits, taunts, and realizes no one is coming and lays the ball in on a soft, push-over dunk, just push over the rim. They had quit. Obviously, no Scoot Henderson. Obviously, no Shaedon Sharpe. But other than DeAndre Ayton, who's played the best basketball of his season for sure, but without a doubt over the last month, have the Blazers made any progress this year? Do you feel better about anyone on the roster that you did at the beginning of the season than you do now? You probably feel better about Scoot because he was really bad to start the year, but it would be hard to be deeply passionate about Scoot's success. I feel not that you couldn't be still high on him, right? But I don't think he's had the type of he hasn't strung together enough performances where you're yeah, he's going to be really good. I'm not worried. He looks solid now. He looks like a solid rookie. DA looks a lot better. I worry after a game like this that my big takeaway is that they haven't made any progress this season. And there is not an area where I can point to on this roster and say, yeah, well, this is going to be good for next year. Jabari Walker looks worse recently. He's worse. He's regressed on offense. Chris Murray just really can't shoot. I think that's a problem. Matisse Thybulle, his first two halves of a season in Blazerland, was a shooter. Has totally disappeared as an offensive player in the year 2024. It is hard to build forward and rebuild without a foundation to squarely build on. Anthony Simons has been way worse this year. He had let's be 100% clear what happened to Ant. He had a killer December. He was awesome in December. Awesome. We are 2 months removed from that, and he has not been good for 2 months. He's had some nights when he's been pretty good. He's been on some nights when he's solid, and obviously the ecosystem around him is not made up for him to be. They just have not enough shooting, right? And then tonight they took it to a new level by going 3 of 32 from three, and they really started 1 of 26 and then hit 2 threes in garbage time. 1 of 26 when the game was trying to be competitive. 1 of 26 from three. Have the Blazers made progress this season? The idea of this year was to build to what's next. What the hell is next? What is the thing that you can say, we figured this out this year and it'll work in the future? Is it DeAndre Ayton being pretty productive? Okay. Right on. He's like back at his career averages. Yeah, that's good. That's good. That I think that's legitimately over the last month. Like, yeah, that's the thing that you would say is going right. This was a bad night in a season full of them. And this was the worst one. Because this was a game where it felt like they quit. Hasn't felt like this year. And they're banged up, and they got injuries, and they got all these things. But this was a game at home against a terrible team. I mean, the Hornets are not like, they've been better recently, right? They just won in Utah, and they lost to break up their losing streak to the Warriors just before this. But like they've been playing better for sure. Not a good basketball team. Not a good enough team that you failed to score an 81st point. This feels like this is a lost season. This was going to be a bad season regardless record-wise. They were going to lose a lot. They're set up to lose a lot. They're incredibly young, but the point was to build for what's next. What the hell is next? All right, let's talk about the basketball games. I thought they played okay on Friday. Honest to goodness, I thought they played okay on Friday. Let's talk about that in the second segment. We'll do the fastest recap in the West, take you through what happened in both games Friday and Sunday, losses to the Nuggets and the Hornets. Join me there, won't you? But first, let's talk about Grammarly. It's the number one tool to help you become a better writer, no matter what kind of work you do, communication is key. You got emails, you got reports, you got presentations. They're important. All are equally important to collaborate on with your teammates and also maybe just get a little help from those AI writing partners at Grammarly. You can communicate more effectively and efficiently so you can make a bigger impact at work. Save time with one click, and it'll help you edit drafts, take it down from hours of editing to seconds. Plus, Grammarly is the gold standard for responsible AI with 14 years of experience in just about every IT certification under the sun. Grammarly is a secure AI writing partner that helps your team make their point and move faster. Grammarly started as something that edited your work quickly. It was truly like a grammar tool. Now it is a full writing companion that can help you generate prompts quickly, can help you write email, like start emails, start presentations, generate ideas, create outlines, whatever you want to do, you can write faster. Make a bigger impact at work with Grammarly. Sign up and download for free at Grammarly.com/podcast. That's Grammarly, GRAMMARLY.com/podcast. Easier said, done. All right. Let's do what we do. Fastest recap in the West. I think the Blazers hit a low point on Sunday. It made me question the general progress of the entire season, but they played okay on Friday night. I thought Friday night was kind of like a, hey, those dudes are better than us type of loss. And that's what it was. Blazers lose 127-112 to the Denver Nuggets. Here's your fastest recap in the West. Blazers down 20-25 after one. Nikola Jokic had 7, 8, and 5 in the first quarter. Just doing what he wanted. Michael Porter Jr. making threes. Blazers tried a bunch of different defenses at Jokic. None of them worked. And when Michael Porter Jr. makes 3-pointers off of Jokic, what are you gonna do? Down 5 after one, down 15 at the break, outscored by 10. And that was kind of the ball game. Down 15 at halftime is like just an insurmountable deficit after that. The Nuggets ran it to 18 at the end of 3 quarters, 95-77, and then went on to win 127-112. I thought the Blazers kind of played fine. Anthony Simons took a while to get going, but he was fine. 21 points on 8 of 15 shooting. DeAndre Ayton was pretty good. 22 and 10 on 11 of 17. Jeremy Grant not super efficient. 9 of 21, but he finished with 25 points. He got to the free throw line. 4 of 7. If he makes free throws, he finishes with 28 on 21 shots. Like, I thought he was fine. Delano Banton had a nice game off the bench. The Blazers just they couldn't do anything with Jokic, right? Nikola Jokic had 29, 15 boards, and 14 assists. 29, 15, and 14 on 12 of 17 shooting. Like it was nothing. Like it was nothing. They tried a bunch of different stuff on him. They tried to guard him straight up a little bit. Then they tried to switch, but only certain matchups they would switch. But they would switch 4-5. So it's like the Nuggets would set a screen with Aaron Gordon, and the Blazers would switch that action. And Jokic would know they were going to switch that action, so he would just be like, "Bring me Jeremy Grant," and he would just punish Jeremy Grant, or he'd say, "Okay, it's going to be Jabari Walker this time. Great." And they started, and the switching was. It wasn't working, and he was punishing him a little bit, and then they were sending like sort of half help and kind of like digging and kind of like just like when he'd catch it, kind of show a little bit but not go all the way. Third quarter they started going all the way. They started like truly double teaming, and Jokic ate him up off the double team. He's impossible to deal with, but like what the real problem was is Michael Porter Jr. had 34 points, 22 in the first half, and he hit threes, and the Blazers lost him a couple times in transition, and he. You let someone else get going on a night where Jamal Murray did not play for the Nuggets, like you're going to have trouble because Jokic is going to have like an efficient 25-point triple-double because it's what he does. So like it can't be anyone else. I think that's why you kind of got to guard Jokic straight up and hope that he doesn't have a 40-point triple-double, which he's totally capable of. But I didn't think the Blazers played. I didn't think it played that bad in this game. I think it's just like the Nuggets are one of the best teams in the league, and they lost. I came away from Friday From Friday's game, I came away not like, impressed or whatever. I wouldn't say that by any means, but I wasn't worried. I said, all right, like this team's not very good. And the offense wasn't an issue, but they couldn't slow down this team that like when they get rolling might win the NBA title. Sure, it happens. Then you get to Sunday's game, and that's when the nightmare really hits home. And that's where it feels like, what's going on? Down 18-24 after one, 24-18, the Hornets lead. Down 47-34 at the break. 34 points in a basketball game. In the opening 24 minutes of a basketball game. They were at a point a minute for a while there. A point a minute. Shot 13 of 50 in the first half, including 1 of 17 from 3. Dog, what? From the 9-10 mark of the second quarter until the 3:31 mark, the Blazers went scoreless. 5 minutes and 39 seconds of scoreless basketball, nearly 6 game minutes of scoreless basketball in the second quarter. And they're only down 13. You know how I said the Hornets weren't very good early in the podcast? Yeah, that thing. You're down 13. You're in the game after 6 minutes of failing to score and 34 points in the first half of an NBA basketball game in the year 2024. And they were still in it through 3 quarters. 59-70 after 3. It's an 11-point game. Now, the Blazers' offense has been horrific. So bad. But they're in the game. In fact, they score. Simons gets a bucket, a little transition bucket. Cut the lead to 5 with 8 minutes and 40 seconds left. After all this, as bad as you've been, and they've been awful, every time is in the midst of playing the worst game of his professional career. Jeremy Grant has been also very bad. The only dude who's doing anything productive is DeAndre Ayton. Everyone else, as stinky as they get. So, to be down 5 with 8:40 left was this incredible victory. I was totally rewriting the sort of podcast, right? Because I was like, you know what? They played like crap, but they won, type of thing. Like I don't write out the podcast, but I've changed my notes and kind of changed the order of things around. You probably can listen to me talk and tell that I don't write this stuff down. But 5-point game with 8 minutes and 40 seconds left. After all this madness, after just outrageous madness, Blazers do not score for the next 4 minutes and 53 seconds, and the Hornets rip off a 16-zip run to push the lead to 21, 89-68. 5 minutes and 39 seconds of scoreless basketball in the second quarter, 4 minutes and 53 seconds of scoreless basketball in the fourth quarter. That is a total in this game of 10 minutes and 32 seconds of consecutive minutes without scoring. Almost a full quarter of basketball. It's just a freaking nightmare. What do they do to get easy buckets? What do they do to generate just, some of it is like they don't have good shooters on the roster. Matisse Thybulle can't shoot. Jabari Walker can't shoot. Delano Banton can't shoot. Duop is average shooter. Ashton Higgins, who played in this game, can't shoot. Chris Murray can't shoot. DeAndre Ayton doesn't space. Like, he takes mid-range jumpers, but he does not like a shooter, right? You're not going to park him on the wing and shoot. Like, DeAndre was good in this game. He finished 26 points and 19 boards and 11-16 shooting. He was the only bright spot. Tamani Kamara can't shoot. Jeremy Grant has kind of taken, he didn't shoot well in this game, 6 of 18, but he's kind of become over the last stretch of games, a guy who doesn't really bomb away from three with that regularity. He takes a lot of twos and drives to the rim and misses shots to the rim. Like, that's what Jeremy has become. He's really struggling from the rim as of late, but he's not taking a lot of threes. He's attacking and he's missing, but like, they don't have shooters, right? Sure. They don't have that. So it's not like they can just, like, if you generate a clean look, and Chris Murray had some bad misses in this game. So if you generate a clean look, it's not all created the same. If it swings to some dudes in the corner, swings to number 8 in the corner, it's not the same as other folks, right? Like, it's just not. And it's not like you can look down the bench and say, literally, like, Thibault, Walker, Benson, non-shooters. Reith is a center. You can't really play him next to Aiden. Aiden's your only good player. You don't want to bring him in the game. And I thought Reith was not good in this game. Higgins, non-shooter. It's like, it's not like you could just go and say, okay, well, we're going to put in our offensive lineup. Arguably, they're starting their offensive lineup with Scoot Henderson did not play in this game. Anthony Simons, Chris Murray, Tamani Kamara, Jeremy Grant, and DeAndre Ayton. They're starting Ant in the wings, right? And I like the idea of the lineup, but it's like, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? But they just don't generate easy looks. Nothing is easy. Nothing about what they do is easy. It all looks labored on offense and predictable. And then you have how bad Anthony Simons played. He was 4 of 21, 0 of 8 from 3. He made 4 shots and had 4 turnovers and 0 assists. His teammates were bricking, right? They finished 3 of 32 from 3, but they were 1 of 26 when the game mattered. 1 of 26. They don't get the free throw line. They took 16 free throws. It's like, that's never going to be DeAndre Ayton's game. It's never going to be Anthony Simons' game. It's really up to Jeremy Grant to generate, like, a lot of free throws. It was for a while. It looked like that was going to be a thing that Jabari Walker could do with regularity, but it hasn't been. So, like, they don't generate easy buckets. They showed this stat during the Blazers broadcast that Jeremy Grant and Anthony Simons take the hardest shots, or they're 2 of the 5 players that take the most difficult shots in the league. Was that supposed to be a good thing? Seems like a really bad thing to me. Maybe I missed the point of the Haber stat, but to me it's like, yeah, yikes. 2 of the 5 hardest shot takers in the game. That seems bad. An offense that generates the most difficult shot seems bad. A friend asked me this weekend, do I think the Blazers are going to tank? I don't know. I know they lost on Sunday night. That wasn't tanking. Let's talk about what tanking might look like to close the show. Let's join me in that third segment. I'll try to answer that question and put a bow on a pretty frustrating weekend here in Portland. That's what we'll do to close the show. But first, let's talk about Stitch Fix. Stitch Fix is going to get you right. You know that instant confidence boost you get from an outfit that makes you look really good? That's what you can get with Stitch Fix. You easily upgrade your wardrobe this year with a professional stylist that's going to help you find new on-trend favorites that will work for you. You just give your stylist your size, your style, and your budget preferences, and then you order boxes when you want and how you want them. No subscription required. And they send you 5 just for you pieces, plus outfit recommendations and pro styling advice. And you keep what works, and you send back the rest, because it might not all work. If it does, you actually save a little bit of money by keeping it all, but if it doesn't work, keep what you like and send it back. Super, super easy. If you don't have to shop, you don't have to hunt around and figure out what styles work. Someone else is going to pick it out for you. And if you don't like it, just send it back. Shipping, returns, and exchanges are always free. Style that makes you feel as good as you look. Get started today at stitchfix.com/lockedon. That's stitchfix.com/lockedon. stitchfix.com/lockedon. All right, still a pass first point guard. I'm still Mike Richmond, and you are still listening to Locked On Blazers. I mentioned in the previous segment, the Blazers they don't get anything easy. The defense isn't quite good enough to make up for it. Obviously, like, the offense is a mess, and they don't have a lot of easy solutions, but even the way that they sort of, like, they're theoretical good offensive players, they don't get them going. They make it hard it feels like they haven't made a ton of progress this season. I kind of didn't want to have that take, to be honest. Like, not that I'm like afraid of being negative about this team. Like, if you listen to the show, you know that that's not the case. But like, I want to try my best to say like, hey, the losing is one thing, but like losing is here in this compartment, and the other compartment here is the progress and what's next, because what matters is what's next, not what's now. I am pretty worried about what's next coming on the heels of a performance like this, because the whole thing about this team is that they had played tough, right? They played tough. They didn't get embarrassed. They didn't get beat up. They didn't have nights where it felt like they quit. They did have nights where it felt like they just didn't have it, and so they decided not to bring it anymore. Okay, well, it's not going to happen for us. See ya. The transition sequence that I mentioned in the fourth quarter, the Blazers had just been within 5 points less than 2 minutes before that, and they'd already given up running back on transition defense. Like, the game, they just quit on the game. That's frustrating. A friend of mine over the weekend, believe it or not, I have friends who watch Blazer games. Shout out to y'all. Also, shout out to my man, someone I've never met, Ricky. I know you're listening out there. Shout out to you. That shout out comes courtesy of Mitch. But a non-Mitch, non-Ricky friend asked me, like, hey, you think the Blazers are going to tank? And I want to differentiate something. What the Blazers did tonight is not tanking. That's losing. Tanking to me means taking players off the court because they would help you win, hiding players for, with bogus injuries or just with decisions you make. It reminds me of the Blazers playing John Butler Jr. at point guard down the stretch in a game against San Antonio, where they were just like, what if we play a player wildly out of position? Would that help? There's tanking, losing on purpose. And then there's just losing, getting your butt kicked. I think Sunday was just get your butt kicked. Tanking to me would be holding guys out for either just like bogus injuries or extended absences when they might otherwise be able to come back. And this question was in regards to Malcolm Brogdon, who's dealing with elbow tendonitis, an injury that had flared up last year and kind of tanked his season down the stretch, upended his season down the stretch because he couldn't get his arm right. Scoot Henderson missed this game with an abductor strain. My assumption is those are real injuries, right? Real injuries. I believe there's no reason that the Blazers would hold Scoot Henderson out with a bogus injury, and that he would play. It was really important for him to play. There's no value in him not playing for the Blazers. It's not like he's helped them win a bunch of games or been really good where he's going to get you victories and et cetera, but and it's important to get him on the court. There's no reason for bogus injuries for Scoot. And for Brogdon, it's an injury he's dealt with in the past, and maybe it's just bothering him again and he can't play, and I assume that he's hurt, right? But I think there is part of me that says, having to sit on this podcast and say, I think the injuries are real, is kind of the whole problem with this, right? Is what they've been the last couple seasons. There's been reporting sort of consistently from local reporters that the Blazers don't want to be the Detroit Pistons. They don't want to be the worst team in the league. They don't want to be a laughingstock. They don't want to be terrible, right? If you go into the end of every season and no longer prioritize winning and lose on purpose, what are you? What are you? You're not a proud organization that prioritizes winning. You're not a proud organization that's building something important. You're losing on purpose because it's important to get draft picks. It's probably the right move. But I don't think you can sell the idea that the Blazers are too proud to be awful if you have in the back of your mind that they might lose on purpose down the stretch of the season. I don't know that they'll hold dudes out, right? I don't know that yet. I have no way of, from my vantage point, necessarily knowing that. I will say this. Jeremy Grant, for the last 2 seasons combined for the Blazers and the Detroit Pistons heading into this year 3, the way I'm counting this, he's played in 46% of the available games after the All-Star break. Not a lot of April action for my man Jeremy. Will we see it this year? I don't know. I don't know the answer to that question. But I will say this. The Blazers, and this ties into my sort of the first segment where it's like, what have they accomplished, right? What progress have they made? Losing on purpose to get a better draft pick is probably the right thing to do for the franchise. But it is hard to square with, we want to be good, we're holding on to our vets because we value what they bring on the floor and we value what they bring in the locker room, and now they all go sit and watch. I don't know if we'll get there, but if you couple this type of performance, like on Sunday, with in a couple weeks, say like, we're heading into the final week of February, say a month from now, when you get to the final 3 weeks of the regular season, you couple this type of night with punting on the final 3 weeks of the regular season, there is no virtue. And this does not need to be a virtuous enterprise, but we got to stop lying about what it is they want. They want to lose. Tonight wasn't that, though. This weekend wasn't that, though. This weekend was more troubling because they haven't got to that stretch of the season. This is just losing because you're bad and messy and haven't improved. What would tanking look like? It would look like this, just with different names on the jerseys. So, to answer my anonymous friend's question, I don't know if they will. Now, I had to guess, I bet like the last 5 games that they'll sit vets. That wouldn't surprise me at all. A longer stretch than that, I think, would be disheartening based on what all of the stuff they've said about they like their team and like where they're at and like the progress they've made and they value Malcolm Brogdon, blah, blah, blah. It's like, great. But tanking would look like this. It would look like losing to a bad team because you put out a team on purpose incapable of playing against them, incapable of having a victory. On Sunday night, you had a team maybe largely uninterested in getting a victory because they stunk in that game, and the Bricks lead, every time it was just god awful. Like I said, the worst game I've ever seen play. And it's not like a lot of other dudes were good, other than DeAndre Ayton, who was good. But no one else was particularly good or close to it. The difference would be that this team seems totally capable of winning, but doesn't have the juice to bring it every night and kind of gave up when it got tough for them. The difference would be your faith in maybe they'll keep it close, but the outcome, boy, would it feel the same. I'll leave you with a little positivity. I think generally speaking, the Blazers have done a good job of picking themselves up off of the mat. In January, when they went on that road trip from hell, and they just got spanked. They just got absolutely walloped every single night, basically, other than an OT win against the Nets, who are their own version of messy. But they got walloped, right? It was bad. That was early January. Then they had a stretch where they were totally fine again. They have shown that they can bounce back. They have shown that these things are not typically long-term hangovers. I don't expect them to be good, right? I expect them to finish with like somewhere between the 4th and the 7th best record in the league, and the worst record in the league, right? Probably the 4th based on today. But I don't expect them to rip off a bunch of wins. But I expect them to look much more like they did Friday against the Nuggets, where they were just like, hey, we're not talented enough to win this game, as opposed to Sunday when they looked like, hey, we're willing to give up on this one because we can't get right and we don't have the heart to keep going. I expect them, and I expect them to continue to fight because that's kind of what they've been this year. Not particularly good, but pretty plucky. If they don't, I'll call it like I see it. But I have some faith in them being more competitive the rest of this week. They play Tuesday and then head out on the road Friday and Saturday. So guess what? 5 shows every day of the week, Monday through Friday, wherever you get podcasts and also on YouTube. What would tanking look like? Tell your friends about the podcast. I appreciate you listening. I'll talk to you soon.